Sweden, a country known for a strong labor market, innovation, generous employment benefits, and work-life balance. In this film, you'll find 5 areas where the Swedish workplace culture might be different from the one you're used to. Listen to what international members of staff from different universities in Sweden think about equality, flat organizations, style of communication, perception of time, and fika. How does this differ from your home country? Equality is one of the cornerstones of the Swedish society. How did you notice this when you started working in Sweden?
The thing that impressed me most in Sweden is not the equality of the society that much as the seed of equity that exists in the system, in the Swedish system. No one can discriminate someone because they look different or because they have different needs. The law protects them, and the person who discriminates runs the risk to lose their job. In other words, the Swedish society forces people to act in a non-discriminatory way, which I really like. It also means that you may never be able to become friends with, let's say, a racist colleague, but this person will never give you any trouble at work.
Sweden has a long tradition of promoting gender equality. The Swedish principle is that everyone, regardless of gender, has the right to work and support themselves, to balance career and family life, and to live without the fear of abuse or violence. Gender equality is also about ensuring that the knowledge and experience of both men and women are used to promote progress in all aspects of society. Gender discrimination in the workplace has been illegal since 1980. The Swedish Discrimination Act demands that employers not only actively promote equality between men and women, but also take measures against harassment. The preventive work includes harassment related to all grounds for discrimination: an employee's sex, transgender identity or expression, ethnicity, religion or other belief, disability, sexual orientation, and age. The Act also states that employees and job applicants who are, have been, or will be taking parental leave may not be treated unfairly. Cases of discrimination can be reported to the Swedish Equality Ombudsman, Diskrimineringsombudsmannen, a government agency that protects equal rights. Swedish workplaces are characterized by flat organizations. There's an expectation to be able to talk to people regardless of their position. What are your experiences?
Well, one of the things that I like in my department is that I feel that I can approach anyone for any type of question, or any question for that matter. I feel like I could send an email or maybe make a phone call or walk into someone's office if they're there for anything really. And I think that makes for a culture that makes you feel seen and helped, and it also makes that you want to help others, of course, because it's a two-way street. And my colleagues and me, we're here for each other and to help each other. And position doesn't really play a role in that, or that's not how I experience it at least. I also feel that communication is pretty fast. Maybe processes and decisions are not taken fast necessarily, but the communication about them is. Usually when you shoot someone an email, you get an answer within days, if not hours. And if someone were to be very busy, they will let you know and say, I'll come back to you next week or the week after, if it's really bad. So I would say that communication goes really smooth, and experiencing that also makes you communicate equally smooth or fast or polite. So I think that the politeness and the calmness in communication is also something that really helps improve the work atmosphere. It also doesn't matter what kind of questions you ask, whether it has to do with well, in my case, whether it has to do with my own work or that I have a question about on how to organize something or where to find information, or why something on the department or university level is arranged the way it is or organized the way it is. It really doesn't matter which type of question you have, but I think that everyone is always happy to help with anything, or happy to try and find someone for you that can answer a question and help you with the thing you're wondering about.
Your doctor, your university professor, your economic advisor, they will all address you by your first name and will likely expect you to do the same in conversation. This is more or less standard in Sweden, regardless of job titles. In organizations, there is little to no middle management and a strong organizational structure. Most people are expected to work well in teams, and involvement of others in the decision-making is natural. This is what we call consensus culture. How would you describe the style of communication at Swedish workplaces?
Well, I'm from Germany and I worked for 4 years now in a Swedish workplace. And what I can say is that the style is very, very social, very nice, very friendly. In the beginning, I had some troubles maybe with the language or with a different type of workplace, and everyone was just so lovely and helpful to give me also a good feeling, to feel welcome. And during these 4 years, I never had the feeling of that someone was not friendly or not helpful, or that we had complications in the communications or something like that. It was always very easy to approach if you have a problem, or if you feel like something is not going in the right way. So everyone's very open and is happy to help. There was no pushing involved in the beginning also, so no stress during my first weeks, months, and there's always, I feel like, that people are not pushing you to get an answer or to get the results. So it feels very comfortable actually, and not being stressed. So this I really appreciate in working in Sweden. There's also less criticizing, I would say, what I know from my home country, Germany, and however, this leads a little bit to that you sometimes wonder, is everything okay? Did I do a good job? Sometimes I was missing a little bit the feedback that you may not get in the Swedish workplace, because people are less keen to criticize you or to give you like a negative feedback. So sometimes I was missing this a little bit, this what I could have done better. So because you get a good feedback, but maybe it was just a good feedback, I don't know. But sometimes I feel like that people are not criticizing or giving you a direct answer if it's a negative one. So this is what I can say from my experience.
Directness. Swedes are known for their open but direct style of communication. They tend to be literal and to the point in their communication, while often voicing what might be perceived as strong and confrontational opinions. Directness is highly valued in business discussions, but direct criticism should be diplomatic and directed towards the aspect of the problem and not towards anyone in particular. Consensus and compromise seeps through almost every aspect of Swedish society. Decision-making can therefore be a slow process, since everyone has a right to contribute and decisions will tend to be made once everyone is in agreement. Reserved. Swedes are often described as shy, quiet, and reserved. As a result, Swedes are often mistaken for being cold and unfriendly, but once you get to know them, they are very warm and hospitable. They prefer to keep their personal life and public life separated, which could make them seem uninterested and distant, when in fact they simply value modesty and reserved behavior. Swedes expect that you are on time. Can you give an example of when this has been noticeable?
So if someone is late for a meeting, people will just start without him. Now that's not true all over the world, where lateness is sometimes more commonplace and people expect the first 10 or 15 minutes of a business meeting, or sometimes an hour, to be pleasantries and small talk. Workers in Sweden skip the small talk. Now this is often misunderstood by foreigners who think that Swedes are somehow not good at small talk, and that's actually not true. Swedes are excellent at small talk, as anybody knows who has, for example, sat next to strangers in a crowded pub at midsummer. But business meetings are reserved for efficient work. The time for socializing with your colleagues is the coffee break, the fika. For example, right now, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
The Swedish punctuality. Tick-tock, tick-tock. In general, punctuality is important in Sweden, both at the workplace and in social engagements. This means you should try not to be late. If you must be late for any reason, it is very polite to let someone know. Scheduling and planning are sometimes mentioned as part of the Swedish way of life. You will notice it when watching TV, trying to catch the bus, and attending business meetings. Not to mention the opening and closing of times of stores. Swedes value time, to the minute and to the second. Fika is more than drinking a cup of coffee, and fika time is quite sacred in Sweden. What's your experience when it comes to fika?
Fika. It is my favorite activity in and out of work. I also use this word to invite people to network. For example, if you want to discuss our research, feel free to contact me and have a fika, an e-fika or a Zoom fika. That means that we will have a 30-minute talk with a tea or coffee, and you don't need to prepare anything. So keep it casual. But in general, what is really interesting in the Swedish society is that Swedish people are really strict with their breaks, lunch break, fika rast, coffee break, and so on. And this is the place that you should take advantage and socialize.
Fika is actually more than just a coffee break, and many Swedes consider that it's almost essential to make time for fika every day. It's a tradition that allows people to take a break, slow down, and meet co-workers or friends in an informal setting. Exactly what you eat or drink during fika is not really important. Even though it could mean that you take a cup of coffee and a cake, fika cannot be experienced by yourself at your desk. Socializing and catching up with friends and colleagues is the most important thing. At many workplaces, fika on Fridays is something special. It's not unusual that someone brings a homemade cake or something from the bakery to the Friday fika, and a schedule for everyone's contribution is followed. It's a really nice way to start the weekend. Fun fact: the word fika actually derives from the 19th century slang word for coffee, kaffe. Invert the word kaffe and you get fika.